G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by user Jade Eyes, titled, "Would I be the arsehole if I didn't let my daughter's father into her life?" For some background, when I, 20 female, was 16, I was in love with Matt, who was 2 years older than me. We were just friends until we started spending more time together, but we never really put a label onto our relationship, and he always dodged answering when I would ask him if we were exclusive. It wasn't long before we started sleeping together. We kept this up for a few years, and around the time I was turning 18, I found out he joined the Air Force in honor of his deceased father. He promised to keep in touch, but did the exact opposite. To my surprise, he left me a gift in the form of a baby, and I had a hard decision to make. After hearing the heartbeats, I couldn't deny that I wanted the child and decided to keep the child, and eventually gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, naming her Jade. But because our relationship was pretty hush-hush, I decided not to tell anyone who the father was. I told everyone I didn't know who he was, and it costed me my reputation. With the support of my parents and very few friends, I was able to raise my daughter into the adorable little girl that she is today, and she turns 2 years old in just a few days. Well, earlier today I went shopping with my daughter, and I bumped into Matt. Apparently he's returned. I tried to ignore and avoid him, but he started chasing after me and asking questions about my daughter. I paid for our stuff and got home, but he followed me. It didn't take him long to piece anything together and realized that Jade was our daughter. He started begging me to be in her life. I don't really trust him to be in her life, but I'm starting to feel guilty. I don't want him to not have a relationship with his own daughter, but I don't want him to hurt her like he hurt me. Would I be the arsehole if I told him to stay the hell away, or should I give him a chance with her? I guess with this limited information, the only thing he did wrong was ghost you, which is very common in this day and age, and it's not an indictment on his character if he has changed. I don't think they are mutually exclusive. I think you can ghost someone and still be a good father. That seems to be the only bad thing he did wrong, as well as not really put a label on your relationship. You guys were young, that's very common. It's not the end of the world in my opinion. I think you would be the arsehole for denying him the opportunity to see his daughter. In the comments, Primary Criticism 929 says, "You chose to punish Matt for trying to do something with his life by not telling him he had a daughter. You're the arsehole. You're even more of an arsehole because now you're refusing for your daughter to have her father in her life. Unless he has ever been violent with you, you have no reason to not want him in her life." OP replies, "I tried my best to contact him and he either had me blocked or chose to ignore me. If his mother knew I was pregnant, she would have immediately sued me for custody and taken Jade from me. Matt is not consistent. He only wants to be in her life because he wants to get to me. I don't care what he's done to me, but I know he will think of her as too much work and will drop her. He will end up hurting her, and that's what I want to avoid the most." They reply to OP, "You don't know that Matt's mother would have sued you for custody or that she would have won. You are the mother. That is all that matters. As for Matt, you don't know anything either. You're assuming things. It has been 2 years. OP replies, "Our families were close until Matt's father died, and then for some reason she had hated my family after that. She would chase me away if she learned that we were together, and he would let her. His mum told me herself while I was pregnant, if it was his, she would sue me and take the baby away. That's when I started saying that I didn't know who the father was." Armadillo Days says, "You're the arsehole. Like it or not, he is the father. If you keep up the denial, he can pursue this in court, and you'll be forced to submit samples for paternity testing. With paternity established, you and he will be on equal footing with the court. Custody-wise, only he'll be able to argue that you're a deceitful liar who hid his child from him, and he should get primary custody since you can't be trusted, and the court will have already seen you stonewalling. Your child has 2 parents. You were an arsehole for not telling him you were pregnant. You are an arsehole for depriving him and Jade of 2 years worth of experiences, and you are an arsehole for trying to keep him out of her life." OP replies, "He would never pursue me in court because that would mean that he would have to admit that we slept together and had a form of a relationship with me to his mother." ECJ 2010 replies, "You are still assuming. You made a post asking if you were the asshole, you were getting the answers you asked for, and yet you're arguing with everyone who is saying the same thing with slightly different wording. You're the asshole. At least give him the chance to prove you wrong. If you are proven right, then you stop. And now, on to the update, titled, I let my daughter's father into her life after being judged on Reddit. I regret it. So, I told a friend that knew both me and Matt pretty closely, and she had become my best friend. She decided to have her brother draw up a contract for me to use so that I can safely have Matt in Jade's life without me having to worry. I told Matt, and we both signed the contract, and my friend had her brother do this thing to notarize it. The first thing he asked me once everything was signed was that if this meant we could sleep with each other again. I said no, and stayed firm that this wasn't for us, this was for them. It wasn't long before I learned that he was engaged to someone else anyway, so I was confused on why he even asked. Whenever he came to see Jade, he would complain about his fiancée and how his mum is making him marry her. I didn't say anything about it until he started flirting with me and asking to be with me. I told him that he's engaged, and I'm not going to be the other woman, and neither is my daughter. He proceeds to bring her to the place I work at and break up with her there, which in turn, she comes up to me and tells me that people talk and she knows what I've been doing. I felt guilty about it at first, but Matt really stepped up after that happened. He became even more attentive towards Jade and spent as much time with her as possible, and even revealed himself as the father to my parents and everyone else. I found myself hoping for us to become a family and rekindling my feelings for him. He convinced me that he was serious about us, and I began sleeping with him again. I had found out from someone else that he was going to be sent out again, and I confronted him and asked if he was going to tell me. He said he was, and that this time he will keep in contact with me and Jade. He went and was doing okay for a while. He contacted us every Friday, but then suddenly, he stopped contacting me. He wouldn't answer my calls or texts. It was like the past all over again. I tried asking his mum, and she just brushed me aside and told me to do a DNA test so she can either take custody of Jade or take me to court for falsifying Matt as the father. It didn't help that I learned that he was engaged once again to that woman, and I learned that I was pregnant once again. This is where my update ended, but now I have more, which inspired me to come back to Reddit. It's been 8 months since then, and I've moved into a new house and have left my old house behind. I wish I could say that I found a new love, but that's not the case. I don't even think I'd be capable of finding someone new right now with 2 kids under my belt. I've been scared to get back out there after my experience with Matt, but that's not what I've been posting about. I think I'm afraid of what would happen when he returns in a few months. I don't know if he would come looking for us again, or if I should even let him back into our lives. I've tried for months to get a hold of him with no success. I've even tried letters, going through friends, etc. My best friend's brother has a friend that's in his unit, and they can use phones, have service and such, but I have no idea why he pulled the disappearing act again, or why he's engaged and set to marry that woman again. Jade stopped asking for him months ago, just after he broke her heart. She's cried for him so many times. I'm happy she's forgotten him because she's back to her usual happy-go-lucky self. But I really don't think I'm going to make the same mistake again and let him back into our lives. It's better without it. So you guys can judge me and tell me I'm horrible, but I know what's best for my daughter and now my son. Thank you for reading this far, and I hope I won't have to update again. To those of you that supported me, thank you. Edit. I also posted this in the comments. I want to say, it's hard being so harshly judged again. My blinders for my feelings towards Matt has really caused some real issues for me and my family, and I know that's my own fault and no one else's. No, Reddit didn't tell me to sleep with him again. Reddit told me to have him in her life, which is what I did. Sleeping with him was on me, and I do know that. I should have stopped him when he refused to wear condoms. I should have just said no to sleeping with him. That's on me, and I already know that. My thing was that the community harshly shamed me for keeping Matt from Jade when I knew he was in it to get to me, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I did agree that Jade should have her father in her life. I've read most of the comments, and I've decided to look into getting a lawyer. I won't allow Matt in again because him leaving again really woke me up. To those who think that this is fake or there's some story out there that sounds like mine, I'm sorry you feel that way. I wish this was some story, but this is really happening to me, as unfortunate as it is. The reason I left out so much for my original post was honestly because of the word count limits. I didn't know that leaving it out would cause such a harsh judgment. In the comments, Lady Norbert says, OP should use that contract to sue Matt for child support and get a restraining order against his mother. He's military. Once his command knows he's got children he abandoned, shit's gonna get ugly for him. She's guaranteed child support, and also she should be able to get benefits, medical, for the kids, as long as he's in the Air Force. The government will automatically take the child support out of his pay, and there is nothing that he can do about it. She also needs to get the custody papers filed. He's abandoned her twice now, and doesn't really have a leg to stand on. Also, have a lawyer advise on how to deal with his mother, what steps she should take to protect herself and the children. That woman has no rights to the kids, wealthy or not. I believe she can get free legal service through the Air Force. The only stipulation, I think at least, I know of, is only one of the two parties can use JAG services, so the sooner she moves on it, the better. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Him being military is a whole different ballgame than trying to get child support and whatever else out of a run-of-the-mill deadbeat through the normal family court system. Unless things have changed since I dealt with the military, his command is going to rip him a new one and be on her team. Unfortunately, she seems extremely naive, easily scared and influenced, and unless someone used to dealing with military takes her under their wing, she's likely to get screwed over in all of this trying to go through the regular court system. It's really just sad for her more than anything else. The guy is clearly using her and has no intention to make things right. I hope she's able to stay away from him. Her best option seems to be avoid contact. Sadly, if all it takes to convince OP to ignore logic is one Reddit post, I doubt she'll actually stay away if he does this again. She'll keep focusing on the what if. I can see what you guys mean about this cesspool of some Reddit comments. I completely disagree with that last comment. I feel like she has learned her lesson, and all the resources in these comments are great in helping her fix this situation. I don't think you can blame someone as young as OP for being young and naive. I think the biggest mistake here was having sex with him again without condoms and without birth control. Big yikes, don't do that, especially with someone that ghosts you like that, especially someone that's already knocked you up. Though it's not the end of the world, I have seen something very similar to this, with worse circumstances, and that person is now happily with someone else, with a third child and doing amazingly in life. Reddit does love doom and gloom, but it genuinely isn't the end of the world. These situations can be worked through, and can be fixed, and life goes on. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys think of this one down in the comments below. Our next post is by user Adept Conclusion, titled, Am I the asshole for yelling at my brother-in-law after he woke me up and told me to make dinner while we were staying at his house? I, 39 female, and my husband Tom, 37 male, and our two sons, 12 male, were recently in a house fire and lost our home, but were lucky that we were all out of the house when this happened. Tom's brother Sean, 40 male, and his wife agreed to let us stay at his place with their kids while we sort out insurance. I don't like Sean, as he believes in a traditional gender roles in the household. We've had issues since he realized I would keep my maiden name at work, which I informed him was none of his business and my personal choice. He works full-time, and his wife is a housewife. When we had our sons, Sean thought that I would quit my job as a doctor and become a stay-at-home mum. However, Tom became a stay-at-home dad instead, and then went back to work after our son went to school and doesn't share the same thought process as Sean. Sean clearly disapproves of this and me, and vocalized his thoughts about the situation. I got Tom to speak to Sean, and he has left us alone since, but occasionally used to make comments at holidays and birthdays about it, which I ignored. They stopped when Tom returned to work, and since then, Tom says Sean has grown as a person. Tom and Sean are very close, and I would never tell him to stop talking to him, but I personally interact as little as possible with Sean. My son's school and Tom's workplace are walking distance from Sean's house, which is why I agreed to stay and to suck it up while we get back on our feet, as it is temporary. Yesterday was a very hectic day at work, and I was exhausted. My shift ended midday and I went straight to bed. Everyone was out of the house. Sean and Tom went to work, the kids were at school, and Sean's wife went to see a friend. Sean got home first and woke me up. I was upset and still tired, and when I asked him why, he said that I should make a start on dinner as it was getting late and his wife was out and not picking up her phone. Usually I do the cooking in the house with his wife, but I was upset that Sean had woken me up and yelled at him to not disturb me. I kicked him out of the room and told him that I was going back to sleep and he could sort out his own dinner. When I woke up that evening, Sean told me that while I was under his house, I needed to respect his house rules. I told him he could have cooked himself, heated leftovers in the fridge, or just gotten takeout. Tom thinks that Sean did overstep by waking me up and making demands, but I shouldn't have yelled and escalated the situation. Piss off, Tom. Sean shouldn't have started the situation in the first place. Doctors work long shifts. That probably was like a 12-hour shift that you just got off. You're sleeping at midday only to be shaken awake by some idiot. I'd be rightfully pissed off too. I bet Sean knowingly did this to get a rise out of OP and then create a situation so he could feel in the right because these traditional gender roles aren't being fulfilled. Sean absolutely knows what he's doing. He's being a dickhead in this situation, not the arsehole OP. I don't think you did anything wrong here. In the comments, MD Thomas says, quote, Sean told me that while I was under his house, I needed to respect his house rules. Normally, I agree with this sentiment. However, rules I think of generally refer to keeping clean and respecting property. Making a rule strictly on your gender is unreasonable. You are not obligated to cook every day for a grown man, not the asshole. My house, my rules is for take off your shoes before stepping on the carpet, not for you're not allowed to sleep because your vagina means you owe me dinner. Even asking to make dinner can be a reasonable request. The problem is it wasn't a request, he ordered her like she's a pet monkey. If he wanted certain expectations as part of the stay, it needed to be discussed beforehand, and her husband should have been included so the husband or wife could decide on who does what. It's not a reasonable request when you're an able-bodied adult and when the person you're asking isn't your partner. OP's only obligation is to her own children, though whichever of the 4 adults does the cooking should feed all the kids, of course. She's also not a stay-at-home mum. She's a doctor who just got off a long shift and needed sleep. Staying at his house doesn't mean he gets to interrupt the existing sleep schedule that is dictated by her extremely important job. Wow, a fully capable adult waking up another adult to get her to make dinner for him. That is so mind-blowingly rude and ridiculous. I really wanted to say something about how if you could have been calmer, that would have been better, but I just can't imagine how you could get pulled out of sleep and calmly explain to this walking anachronism that he is capable of using a microwave. You are just 100% not the asshole. Update. I didn't expect so many responses and have read quite a few. I spoke to a friend who said that we are always welcome at hers. I told my husband that I was leaving with the kids, and he was welcome to join me or stay at Sean's. My brother-in-law didn't tell my husband the whole story, and said I just flat out refused to cook and then yelled at him out of tiredness, when one of the conditions on us staying was that we would cook and help around the house. I was upset that my husband believed Sean, but he didn't have the full story. In our culture, we place a big emphasis on respecting elders, and I know I feel uncomfortable opposing elder relatives on my side of the family, so I get why my husband does struggle. This experience has made me put down my foot though, and I've told my husband that I don't want our sons anywhere near him. I think this has also been an eye-opener for my husband, and he's agreed to move out with me, although brother-in-law asked him to stay. When we get our place sorted, only sister-in-law and my kids' cousins will be allowed over. My sister-in-law has called to apologize for brother-in-law's behavior, and I've not heard from him at all. He was silent to me and only talked to my husband and the kids. I only agreed to move in with brother-in-law as I believed he had changed in his beliefs and it had been a few years since our last fight, but apparently not. Also, the house belonged to my husband's late parents and he owns half of it. With our insurance, they have finally ruled the fire as a faulty electrical in our kitchen, so we will get a place of our own by Friday. Thank you everyone for the support in the comments. In the comments, KMA1391 says, brother-in-law needs to get his shit together and learn that all women are not his servants. Wow, what a clown. The woman is a doctor. Her medical skills are way more valuable than her cooking skills. If she needs rest after a long shift, brother-in-law can make his own dinner. Dang, I was already on her side before you pointed out the little blip that I missed of what she did for a living. Would have been on her side no matter what her job was, but extra on her side now. What on earth made this jerk think that she would give up her job as a doctor just because she got married and had kids? I realize some women do put their medical career on hold, but I have to think that they're probably in the minority. Lamau? He really thinks that he has the right to tell OP it's his house when her husband owns half of it? Yeah, I'd be like, half of the house is my husband's. You obey my rules so fast. Well, I hope her husband keeps up with his word and does not allow this man inside their house. Sean thinks her husband owns her, not the other way around, so the house being her husband's doesn't matter. Sean's male half property ownership trumps her existence, and she should get in the kitchen. Oh god, so unhinged to say that. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. Hope you have a good day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.